Hi, I'm Kat, and today I have for you a true crime case, a word in Romanian, and I'll also be doing my makeup at the same time. And if I think about it, this video would have been better suited for the Halloween month, but yeah, I didn't manage to get to it on time. So, anyway, I'm just gonna give you a warning from the beginning. It's gruesome, it's beyond gruesome, so please don't eat. Please don't eat. No eating, as you can tell from the title, probably. Okay, so the word in Romanian for today is Japonia. 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 Well done, guys. You just said Japan. Even though Issei, also known as the Kobe cannibal, killed and consumed his friend Renee's remains in 1981, he is still at large and able to walk the streets freely. More than 40 years passed since his dream came true when he killed, dismembered, and ate his friend. The crime was committed while Issei, a native of Kobe, Japan, was studying comparative literature in Paris, France. He was taken into custody and committed to a mental health facility almost straight away. But because of a legal loophole, he was able to check himself out of a different mental hospital after his extradition in Japan, and he was still free until 2022 when he passed away. He even made a living off of his crime in the years since 1981 and gained a lot of notoriety in Japan. In addition to writing manga novels that graphically show Renee being killed and eaten, Issei made several appearances on talk shows, and he even played the lead role in softcore porn reenactments in which he beat performers. And he never felt sorry for what he did. It sounds as though he was thinking that talking about his crime is the most natural thing in the world, and his intention was, even before he died, to do it once more. Issei Sagawa was born on 26th of April 1949 in Kobe, Japan, to wealthy parents. His father, Akira Sagawa, was a businessman working as president of Kurita Water Industries, and his grandfather had been an editor for the Asahi Shimbun. Issei was born prematurely, and he was so small that he could fit in the palm of his father's hand. And being such a small baby, he was at more risk of developing various illnesses. Issei developed enteritis, a disease of the small intestine. He eventually recovered after receiving several injections of potassium and calcium in saline. Issei's fragile health and introverted personality led him to developing a strong interest in literature. Whilst in the first grade at school, he experienced his first cannibalistic desires after seeing a male's thigh. In a later interview, he said that as a youth he committed bestiality on his dog and experienced cannibalistic desires for women. Issei had an obsession with eating human flesh and cannibalistic urges for as long as he could remember. He warmly recalled his uncle's monster costume and how he and his brother were placed inside a stew pot to be eaten. Hansel and Gretel was, of course, his favorite fairy tale. He actively looked for stories about humans being eaten. In the first grade, he even remembered thinking, that looks delicious, when he saw the thighs of his classmates. Issei attended Wako University and he completed a master's degree in English literature at Kwansei Gakuin University. When he was 24 years old, while attending the Wako University in Tokyo, Issei followed a tall German woman home. He then broke into her apartment while she was asleep. His intention was to cannibalize her by slicing off part of her buttocks and sneaking away with a small part of her flesh, but the victim actually woke up, fought him back, and pushed him to the ground. I'm assuming that he was reported, Issei was captured by the police and he was charged with attempted rape, but he didn't confess his true intentions to authorities. So the charges for the attempted rape were dropped when his father paid a settlement to the victim. He got into therapy, but I'm not sure that he actually told the therapist about his cannibalistic issues. He would later say that if he would have received treatment back then, as in the proper treatment for cannibalism, he would probably not have committed murder later on. In 1977, aged 28, Issei moved to France to pursue a PhD in literature at the Sorbonne in Paris. He later said that while residing in Paris, almost every night I would bring a prostitute home and then try to shoot them, but for some reason my fingers froze up and I couldn't pull the trigger. Issei links his cannibalistic fantasies to what most people would consider sexual desire, blaming the media's portrayal of Western women like Grace Kelly for igniting them. Issei also saw himself as ugly, short, weak, and not a proper man or a handsome one, so he didn't believe that a woman would want him as part of a healthy relationship. Issei's dream wasn't to actually have sex with these gorgeous women like other people did, but he actually dreamt of devouring them. Issei said that nobody who doesn't share his exact cravings can comprehend or explain the reasons behind his cannibalistic tendencies. He declared, "It's just a fetish. To me, eating is just an extension of that. For instance, if a normal man had a crush on a girl, he would naturally want to see her as much as possible, be close to her, smell her, and kiss her. To be really honest, I find it incomprehensible that not everyone has the desire to consume or eat other people." But Issei insisted that he was just gnawing on their flesh and never considered killing them. He wrote in his best-selling book, In the Fog, that he was always short and skinny with legs that looked like pencils. And he believed that his height of just under 5 feet made him too ugly to draw the kind of close physical contact that would have curbed his urges. When he was 15 years old, Issei tried to see a psychiatrist about his urges, but he retreated even deeper into his solitary mental state after he discovered that this treatment was ineffective. Then, in 1981, after 32 years of suppressing his desires, he finally acted on them. After relocating to Paris, Issei claimed that once there, his cannibalistic impulses took control. He wrote in his book, and I'm going to repeat from the beginning so that we don't get lost in the phrase, "I would bring a prostitute home almost every night and then try to shoot them from behind." It shifted from being a desire to devour them to an obsession with the notion that I had to fulfill this ritual of killing a girl at all costs. And he sadly made his desire a dream come true. After a while of being in Paris, he located his ideal victim. Renee Hartveld was a Dutch student at the Sorbonne, the same university that Issei attended, who studied under him. They soon became friends, and Issei would sometimes invite her to supper at his house. He was eventually able to win her trust. Before actually murdering her, he made one failed attempt to kill her. When her back was turned, the gun misfired the first time. Despite the fact that, most people would see this as a sign to give up, Issei was only led further down his rabbit hole by this. He remarked, "It made me even more hysterical and I knew that I had to kill her." Sadly, I wasn't able to find much information on our victim Renee. It seems that the police are keeping a lot of information private. From what I could find, Renee Hartveld was born in either 1955 or 1956 in Netherlands. According to memories shared online by different people who knew her, Renee loved to read poetry. She was a very open person, friendly and straightforward. So it's no surprise that Renee decided to travel to Paris and study French literature at the Sorbonne, the same university Issei went to. After Issei tried to kill Renee the first time, he managed to follow through the very next night. This time, the gun fired instantly, killing Renee. On 12th of June 1981, Issei, who was by then 32 years old, invited Renee to dinner at his apartment at 10 Rue Erlanger under the excuse of translating poetry for a school assignment. Although I've read from other sources that he wanted her to do a voiceover reading poetry, I'm not exactly sure which one it is. Issei planned to kill and eat Renee, having selected her for her health and beauty, characteristics that he felt he lacked. Issei considered himself weak, ugly, and small, and he later claimed that he wanted to absorb Renee's energy. Renee was 25 years old and she was 178 centimeters tall, 5 feet 10 inches. So obviously she was taller than he was. After she arrived at the apartment, she started reading poetry at a desk. She was with her back to Issei when he shot her in the neck with a rifle. Issei said that he fainted after the shock of shooting her, but then woke up realizing that he had to carry out his plan. Okay guys, so here we are going into some really gruesome details and disgusting details, so get ready, this is the last warning. Issei, after killing Renee, he raped her corpse, but he couldn't actually bite into her skin because his teeth were just not sharp enough, so he decided to leave the apartment and he bought a butcher knife. Issei ate various parts of Renee's body, eating most of her breasts, face, buttocks, feet, thighs, and neck, either raw or cooked, even admitting that he swallowed her, get ready for this, he swallowed her clitoris whole because she was on her period at the time and he just didn't like the smell of menstrual blood. And he saved other parts of her body in his fridge. Jesus Christ. I feel like my stories are getting more and more gruesome the more I do this. Issei was only briefly regretful before he was overjoyed. Quote, I considered making an ambulance call. Then I realized, hold on, don't be foolish. After 32 years of dreaming this is finally happening, you can finally say. I cut into her buttocks, first thing I did. I saw only the fat under the skin regardless of how deep I cut. It appeared to be corn and it took some time to get to the red meat. As soon as I saw the meat, I used my fingers to tear off a chunk and put it in my mouth. For me, it was genuinely a historic occasion. End of quote. Issei finished by saying that the only thing he regretted was not having eaten her while she was still alive. Eating her living flesh was what I truly wanted to do. My ultimate goal was to consume her, not necessarily to kill her, but nobody believes me. I wonder why nobody believes you. Oh God. He later said that the meat tasted like tuna. It was soft and odorless. Issei also took photos of Renee's body at each eating stage. Obviously, he couldn't eat all of it so quick, so once the remains were not fresh anymore and they started decomposing, Issei tried to dump the remains in a lake. And before I carry on, you guys, I found so many crime scene photos, proper crime scene photos of the organs and all of the body parts that Issei prepared for himself to eat. And I'm not going to show you these photos. You can Google them. As soon as you Google his name, you're gonna find the photos because they are just, sorry, they are disgusting, but just stuff on plates and in bags and all these kind of things. So I almost fell sick when I saw those photos. So I don't know, I'm warning you, if you do want to see them, just warning, it's disgusting, beyond disgusting. So Issei disposed of what was left of Renee's body 2 days after she was killed. He had frozen or eaten most of her pelvis, so he called for a cab after packing her head torso, and legs into suitcases. Oh my god, this look is not staying. Oh, for God's sake. Hold on. I never like this kind of headbands because they always go backwards. There was a quiet lake in the Bois de Boulogne park where the taxi dropped him off. Several people saw the suitcases dripping blood, and so they alerted the French police that he had intended to drop the suitcases in the lake. He was caught by the police in the act, actually. And Issei, he made a straightforward confession. I killed her to eat her flesh. He later told the Japanese magazine, after being asked if he would have been happy to just consume some part of her body, such as her hair or fingernail clippings, he responded, "If I think about it now, if instead of her flesh I'd been able to obtain her pubic hairs or urine and put them in my mouth, I might have been satisfied. But I wasn't able to bring myself to ask. I guess I was afraid my asking her for it would have disgusted her." In a French prison, Issei awaited his trial for 2 years. Issei's wealthy father provided a lawyer for his defense. When the time came for his trial, French judge Jean-Louis Bourguier dropped the charges against him and ruled that he was legally insane, ordering for him to be kept in a mental health facility indefinitely. So now you might ask yourself, why did I say at the beginning of this video that he was free until the day he died, until 2022? Well, we'll soon get there as well. After a visit by the author Inuhiko Yomota, Issei's account of the murder and its aftermath was published in Japan under the title In the Fog. Issei became quite famous in Japan, even a celebrity, probably because of the French authorities deciding to deport him to Japan. He was immediately committed to Matsuzawa Hospital in Tokyo. His examining psychologists all declared him sane and found that sexual perversion was his sole motivation for murder. Following his deportation, he was supposed to live out the remainder of his days in a mental health facility in Japan. But he actually didn't, and this is where I'm getting at. In France, his files were sealed, and even though they had been requested by the Japanese government, France didn't release these files. As a result, Japan had no legal basis to prosecute Issei, and they were therefore forced to release him. On December 12, 1986, Issei Sagawa left the psychiatric hospital in Tokyo by checking himself out of it. And after that, Mr. Cannibal Issei was free. Issei was free to move about his home city of Tokyo. Issei even said that around June every year, when women start wearing less and exposing more skin, the desire to eat people becomes really intense. Oh, look at this. While I was heading to the train station just now, I noticed a girl who had a really nice behind. Such images make me want to devour someone else before I pass away. What I'm saying is I can't bear the thought of living this life without ever tasting that derriere that I saw this morning or her thighs. I want to eat them once more while I'm still here, just to make sure I'm satisfied when I pass away. Yes. Issei even had a plan in place on how to achieve this. He went on to say, "To truly enjoy the inherent flavor of the meat, I believe that either sukiyaki or shabu shabu, lightly boiled thin slices, is the best option." However, Issei, as far as we know, abstained from cannibalism for the remainder of his time. But that didn't stop him from making money off of his offense. He reviewed the restaurants for Japanese magazine Spa and was successful giving talks about his vices and urges at the lecture circuits. Additionally, he had 20 books published, extremely intimate fantasies of beautiful girls. His most recent book features both his own and well-known artists' illustrations. He said, I hope that after reading it, people will no longer view me as a monster at all. I'm not sure how people will be able to do that. I'm not sure. Issei Sagawa allegedly had 2 heart attacks in 2015 and he was also a diabetic. In 2018, there was a conversation recorded or heard by French directors between him and his brother. If I were your brother, would you eat me? Issei just responded with a stare and quiet. In 2005, Issei's parents died and he was prevented from attending their funeral, but repaid their creditors and moved into public housing. He received the welfare benefits for a time. In an interview with Vice magazine in 2011, Issei said that being forced to make a living while being known as a murderer and cannibal was a terrible punishment. Go figure. I wonder how the punishment was like for Renee because she lost her life. In 2013, Issei was hospitalized from a cerebral infarction which permanently damaged his nervous system. He later lived alone and he needed daily assistance which was provided by his younger brother or other caregivers. At the time, he claimed to have regretted his obsession. He died from complications of pneumonia at a hospital in Tokyo on 24th of November 2022 at the age of 73. And he died a free man. Renee's family vowed to get Issei convicted in Japan, but sadly that never happened, and to this day, Renee never got the justice she deserved, and her family will never have full closure over what happened to Renee. And it's so heartbreaking. It honestly is so heartbreaking. They will never be able to get justice. Renee will never be able to have justice. And I have this thought after doing this case and after Issei saying that before he dies he wants to do it yet again, at least once, so he's sure that before he dies he does it again, at least once again. So I'm wondering, is it possible that he actually did it yet he wasn't found? It's kind of, if you're a cannibal and if he had these desires, since he was a child, once he tasted that as a cannibal, I'm not sure that he would be able to stop himself, or maybe because he dismembered his victim and consumed her body parts, maybe he had another victim and he did the same, except that he maybe disposed of the other body parts somewhere and the corpse was not found. So it's very much possible that he did it again, but we just don't know. This is just what goes through my mind, because I think that being a cannibal and his desires since he was a child is kind of weird that he would only do it once. I don't know. You guys, you let me know what do you think in the comment section down below. For now, take care, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next video, and I'm hoping you are not eating or you have not eaten. I don't know when I'm going to be able to eat. And just a warning again at the end, if you want to Google and see those crime scene photos, including the rest of the body, you can. Everything is there on Google. You just need to Google his name. But I wouldn't recommend you doing that because they are just really disgusting and really gruesome. Anyway, thanks guys. Bye.